I've taken the time to study the all-22 coaches film from the Buffalo Bills Week 9 loss to the Cincinnati Bengals, and I'm sharing my top takeaways today on Locked On Bills.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Bills Mafia? It's Joe Marino, author of Go Bills and Buffalo's Run, also the co-host of the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast, and I am your host of Locked On Bills. I want to thank you for making Locked On Bills your first listen every day, and a big welcome and shout out to our everydayers. You know who you are. Those of you who never miss a single episode, I appreciate y'all being here very, very much. I'd also like to invite you to subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. Well, folks, you know the drill. We've given you our immediate post-game reaction, and now it's time to talk about what the tape revealed, right? I love doing this because I feel like you get your answers. People spend all day arguing on social media, listening to press conferences. The answers are always in the tape. They're always in the tape. And boy, do I have a lot to share today. We're going to get into the offense and that lull that they had for 7 consecutive drives. I have major concerns about the defensive game plan, snap counts, studs and duds. You know the things that we do here on the All-22 review episodes. But I do want to start with the offense and drive enders. Big talking point that I had in the post-game reaction was you had 9 offensive possessions. You scored a touchdown on the first one. You scored a touchdown on the last one. But in the middle 7, you scored 3 points. And so what happened? What happened in those 7 drives? What was the reason you couldn't score? Well, you study the tape, you find out. The results of those 7 drives: 3 punts, 2 turnovers, a field goal, and an end of half. Let's get into the specifics. Drive 1, we know, touchdown drive. It was beautiful. Josh Allen, decisive, accurate, making plays, spreading the field, finding good matchups, delivering some darts, improvising a little bit. It was pretty. After that, not so much. Drive 2. You start off in business. It's 1st and 10 from the 44 after a pass interference call, and then you have a big missed opportunity on the 1st and 10 play from the 44. You call a pin and pull run to the left. James Cook has a ton of space, and he's got blockers. He's got Mitch Morse and Connor McGovern in front of him. David Edwards is on the second level. It should be a monster run, but one guy doesn't do his job, and that's Dion Dawkins. Dion Dawkins, the left tackle, all he has to do is seal DJ Reader, who's the 3 tech, and that means he's aligned on the outside shoulder of the guard, so a really nice angle if you're the left tackle to block down and seal. But Dawkins doesn't execute. He comes out of his stance with high pads, with sloppy footwork. DJ Reader pretty easily crosses Dawkins' face and blows up the run for a loss. He's the only guy that could have made a play. And so now it's 2nd and 11, and you throw incomplete on 2nd and 3rd down after getting behind the sticks, and you punt. And so that's what happened. What was the drive ender? To me, it was the 1st and 10 run where it should have been an explosive play, but Dawkins can't execute a basic down block to seal the 3 tech. And instead of a monster run, you've got a loss of 2 yards. You throw a couple of incomplete passes and you punt the football. So that's how your drive ended there. Drive 3, what happened here? This is the drive where the first play was you took that deep shot to Deontay Hardy on 1st down, and Hardy's one-on-one down the field. and the ball's a little long and didn't matter because Hardy couldn't separate anyways. And then second down is the interception. It's a poor throw by Josh Allen. I understand the decision. After watching the tape, I understand the decision. You try to catch the corner off balance after the jam, but the ball is way underthrown. Now, Cam Taylor-Britt has come out and said, look, he kind of tricked them. He acted like he was going to break on the outbreaking pattern, and there was going to be space to slot the throw. And, he was able to bait Josh into the throw. But the bottom line is that's an underthrow. If you're going to try to hit that honey hole, you got to put it out there. You can't underthrow it. And Josh did. And so he certainly looked at the matchup and he liked it and he went after it, and I can respect that. But because he's not working the progression there and he predetermines the throw because he likes the matchup pre-snap, he misses what's going on to his right. And he's got a wide open James Cook and a wide open Dalton Kincaid to the boundary, but his eyes were only to Gabe to the field. So what's the drive ender? Josh Allen throws an interception. Drive 4. It's the start of a series here where it's 1st and 10 from the 9. The Bills get it down to a 3rd and 2 from the 17, and you get some really poor execution from Josh Allen. By alignment, you start with motion from Stefon Diggs. You get a nice indicator that it's zone coverage because nobody goes with him. It's 3rd and 2. You flood the middle of the field. You send 2 at the Mike linebacker. He can't cover both players. Kincaid is working in between zones. And Josh has to throw it, but he doesn't. And it appears, based on the film, that he's staring right at Kincaid, but he never pulls the trigger. The line caves in around him, and he takes a sack, and you punt the ball from the 8. It's 3rd and 2. Hit your back foot and release the football. And if he didn't like Kincaid, which he should have liked Kincaid because it's a very basic anticipatory throw between zones, hit your back foot and throw the ball, he's got to check down to Cook that he also doesn't take. He just stands there. The pocket crashes around him. He takes a sack and you punt. Really basic stuff that you'd expect Josh Allen to be able to execute. You got the look you wanted. He didn't pull the trigger. He wasn't decisive. And so you punt deep in your own territory. The Bengals start their next drive at the plus 45, and they score a touchdown. Your drive ender is Josh Allen not executing a simple read on 3rd and 2. Drive 5, it's the drive before the half. And here's your double dip opportunity, right? You're down 21-7, and you think you have a chance to get the next 2 possessions in the game. And your offense is moving the ball. He's 23 yards to Khalil Shakir, 10 yards to Dalton Kincaid, 4 more to Kincaid, then a no-gain throw to Kincaid. It's 3rd and 6. And that's where the goofy intentional grounding call came into play. And I think that's a very unfortunate call, a very inappropriate call against the Bills. But the reality is you go from 3rd and 6 at the plus 38. Let's say that that's just a regular incomplete pass. You can then attempt a 55-yard field goal, or you can go for it. But the penalty moves you back 9 yards, and you're out of field goal range, and you let the clock run out in the half. So a goofy penalty costs the Bills on that drive. Drive 6 coming out of the half. It's the first drive coming out of the half. You wind up getting a field goal on this drive, but the last play before settling for the field goal was the missed face mask on Gabe Davis. How do you miss that? How do you miss that if you're an NFL referee? I know they have a hard job, but come on now. What are you looking at if you're not seeing a guy tugging at another guy's face mask on a targeted pass? And let's say that they get that call correct, or let's say that he doesn't pull his face mask and you throw a touchdown pass. It's a different ball game. All of a sudden, it's a 21-14 game and a 1-possession game. Instead, you settle for a field goal, and it's still a 2-possession game at 21-10. Drive 7, you start 1st and 10 at your own 9-yard line. 2 plays later, it's 3rd and 6. I think you once again have poor execution from Josh Allen. The Bengals rush 3 on 3rd and 6. There's 2 spies committed to Josh Allen. And Josh Allen has Kincaid and Diggs to his left. He's got Shakir and Davis to his right. And Josh keeps his eyes locked in on the combination with Diggs and Kincaid. Since he's got Diggs bracketed with 2 players, Kincaid runs an out and in, but safety Dax Hill has it leveraged the entire time. And Josh never takes his eyes off the route combination. He stays there forever. He never gets backside where Shakir's wide open on a slant route. And so Josh keeps his eyes on Kincaid, who never gets open and never was going to get open based on the leverage of the route. He tries to escape to his left, but they have two quarterback spies. You punt the ball. And then drive 8, 12 plays, 75 yards. You're humming. And Dalton Kincaid fumbles. 1st and 10. It's 1st and 10 from the plus 22. Kincaid fumbles at the 11. It's unfortunate. You know the kid's trying to make a play. You saw how disappointed he was. But that's how your drives ended. So everyone's all day long wondering, well, what happened? What happened in those middle 7 drives where you couldn't get anything going? Well, there's your answers. What were the drive enders? Execution sometimes, missed penalties sometimes. But it's not acceptable, and I know that a lot of this is going to sound like I'm pointing it back at players, but I think that's what is easy to reveal about the tape. One thing that I said in the Locked On Bills subtext community today as I was sharing all these different film clips, and look, if you're not part of the Locked On Bills subtext community, join us because the film clips on the post game are really, really good. They're a great supplement to this podcast. But one thing that I said is I usually kind of come out of these Bills games recently immediately kind of disappointed with the coaching. And I am very disappointed with the coaching, especially on defense. We're going to get to that in just a moment. But after you study the tape, you kind of see the execution opportunities and you find yourself mad at the players. Now, here's the deal. That doesn't mean I'm not mad at Ken Dorsey and I'm taking any blame away from Ken Dorsey. When you have consistent execution errors week over week over week over week, and you find yourself having the same conversation, eventually that guy's got to go right back to the guy that's coordinating the scheme, the guy that's coordinating the offense. So, yeah, that doesn't mean I'm not pointing some fingers at Ken Dorsey because he deserves that as well. But sometimes it's frustrating to watch the tape and see the intent of the call and just see the execution not happen. And I felt like I was in that spot once again, watching this Bills offense have a huge rut, not be able to get out of it, and spoil an opportunity to win a football game. All right, we got more to say about the offense. We got plenty to say about the defense, but I need to tell you about PrizePicks. You got to check them out. PrizePicks is the funnest, most exciting, easiest way to play daily fantasy sports. The format is incredible. It's just you versus the numbers. It's not you against thousands of other players, including pros and including sharks. It's just you versus numbers. Here's what you do. You select 2 or more players. You pick more or less on their projected stats, and you place your entry. That's it. It does not take long. You can make an entry in under a minute, and then when you win, the withdrawals are super, super quick. I'm loving all these sports right now. I love them even more when I have a PrizePicks entry going into the games. It just makes it that much more exciting. So go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, that's prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy. So I just detailed 7 drives and what ended the drive. There were 2 good drives, right? 2 touchdown drives, the first one and the last one. And the things that were good about those drives were Josh Allen spacing the field, right? Sometimes you're empty. You've got at least 4 receivers on every play, and Josh Allen is just seeing the field, and he's picking out matchups, and he's just delivering the football. And that's when I find Josh Allen to be at his best, when he's got space, when he's got opportunity, and he could just execute. And there was very little run game involved with any of that. It was Josh Allen was the run game when he wanted to take off. Now, that last drive, they had some moments where they were able to get the ball and hand it off to Latavius Murray and convert. But I think more of that, right? Find the moments where it's clicking and replicate it. You had some RPO stuff going in at least that first drive. It was good stuff. Josh taking advantage of space, picking out matchups, and playing instinctive football. Some other notes that I have here about the offense. I don't like this at all. A 13.6 play action percentage. You know I want that in the mid-30s. We're not even close at 13.6. So you underutilized your play action. You got away from your tempo stuff. Tempo was obviously a big catalyst in the somewhat good offensive game against Tampa Bay. That went away. And McDermott and Dorsey was asked about that on Monday. And they both kind of said that they wanted to show some different styles of offense, which I think conceptually sounds really good. One of my keys to the game was to keep counterpunching because Lou Anarumo is a very good defensive coordinator, very good at adjusting. And so I thought you needed to continuously show different things. And I can appreciate the thought process there. But when you needed to run tempo, you needed to run tempo. Couple other notes here. I thought this was a poor performance for Dion Dawkins after I just got done saying that I think he's having the best season of his career. I thought he had obviously a big run game blunder, but also I thought he worked overtime all day long against Trey Hendrickson, a good pass rusher. There's no question about it. But I thought Hendrickson really challenged Dawkins in ways that we haven't seen a pass rusher challenge Dawkins. And I think Osiris Torrence was certainly his worst game. He got worked in pass protection. I mean, he was getting twisted up. The Bengals were running some stunts with their ends and their tackles, and Torrence his timing was off. His pass offs were off, and there was times where he just got beat. And so those two guys on the offensive line, I thought had some struggles. Offensive snap counts in this game. The Bills played 58 offensive snaps. Josh Allen on the field for all 58. At running back, James Cook, 32 snaps. Latavius Murray, 26. None for Ty Johnson. Curious to see at what point Leonard Fournette is on this active roster and Ty Johnson's back on the practice squad and what that means for the workload of these running backs. That should be curious. That's something I'm certainly curious about at some point. At tight end, Dalton Kincaid, 52 of 58 snaps. Q Morris, only 2 snaps. David Edwards played 4 snaps as an inline tight end. So 12 personnel was not a thing. Not a thing at all in this one. Wide receiver, Steph Diggs, 55 snaps. Gabe Davis, 54. Khalil Shakir, 41. Trent Sherfield, 21. Deontay Hardy, 3. So you are seeing a very clear transition and movement to it being Diggs, Davis, and Shakir as your top 3 receivers. I mean, Hardy only 3 snaps. He's really kind of been phased out, and I think he deserves it. I mean, his impact has been very minimal. Good job catching those punts, but his offensive contributions are very underwhelming to me. And then Trent Sherfield, 21 snaps, right? I mean, it's very clear that Shakir is the 3rd receiver, and it should be that way. When it comes to the offensive line, all 5 starters played all 58 snaps. So no offensive lineman that wasn't a starter played, except for, of course, David Edwards, 4 snaps as an actual tight end. So a tough day for the Bills offense. Once again, right? The questions aren't going away. How do you find rhythm? How do you find consistency? How do you look like the Bills offense that we used to watch in the past and feel like Josh Allen's going to go down the field and score touchdowns just about every time? And, you know, I know that there's metrics that support this Bills offense being pretty good, but we all know that it's not playing anywhere close to its potential. And you've got 5 games now in a row. You've got 6 out of 9 games this season where I think your offense was pretty underwhelming. And you expect more, right? This is the quote unquote healthy side of the ball. And you don't look like everything looks like it's challenging for you and you can't find consistency. And what's hard about thinking about this offense moving forward is you have tough challenges. Your next game's Denver Broncos. And I know Denver gave up 70 to the Dolphins, but they just held the Chiefs to 9 points and they're coming off their bye. Then you have the Jets. You're not good against the Jets defense when you're good on offense. Then you got Philly. Then you got Kansas City, who's like a really good defense. You got to deal with the Patriots again. Dallas. I mean, like, you got to figure this out on offense real quick. I mean, real quick, if you're going to go on a real run here. And I recognize that for as bad as the team has played this year, and like I've mentioned multiple times, you played 9 games, 6 of them you were underwhelming as a football team. We've seen the Bills be pretty meh and go on a run and feel like you have a real chance. They were 7-6 in 2021. They were 7-6 with a 9-6 loss to the Jaguars. They lost like 45-13 to the Colts. But by the end of that season, we thought it was the Bills' best chance to win a Super Bowl. And yeah, it doesn't look great. Like there's injuries on the defense and there's a lot to be concerned about with this football team. But you only get so many seasons. Josh Allen's only going to play so many seasons. Like I am 100 million% rooting for the Bills to figure it out and go on a run and try. I mean, what team out there looks like they are just an absolute world beater? Maybe the Eagles, maybe. I mean, it feels like every team, fraud alert, fraud alert. Well, maybe there's just not a dominant team yet. And so try to figure it out. But you better do it quick because you're running out of time and you're just getting more and more injured every single week. Hopefully it changes. Hopefully it changes. All right, I got stuff to say about the defense. I know the offense is all the fuss right now, but defensively, boy, oh boy, do I have some disappointments, even being mindful of the injuries that they have on that side of the football. We'll get to that here, but I got to tell you about FanDuel. Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better place and time to get in on the action. The app, super easy to use, and there's a ton of different things that you can bet on, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. I actually hit a bunch of player props in the Bills-Bengals game. I had the over on Dalton Kincaid receptions. I had the over on Dalton Kincaid receiving yards. I had the over on Joe Burrow passing touchdowns. I did pretty good. So check it out. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off this NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. All right, let's talk about the defense. And folks, like I mentioned at the top, I hope that you will join the Locked On Bills subtext community, because if you do, you get access to our Discord channel. The conversation in there is amazing. But also I share all these film clips. I must have done 25 or so different clips where I share things that really stand out to me that I think tell the story of the game. And I offer commentary while I'm kind of showing the clip, and would love for you to be part of it. So join the Locked On Bills subtext community. There's a link in the show notes. So if you're on YouTube or wherever you're listening to this podcast, check out the show notes and join the Locked On Bills subtext community so you can get the film clips to go with this analysis. But defensively, again, all the fuss is on the offense. I get it. But defensively, this was a game plan from Sean McDermott that was completely unfathomable to me. Completely unfathomable. You had 10 days to prepare for the Cincinnati Bengals. And you know what the game plan was? Blitz Joe Burrow like crazy. What? That's not the book on Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow kills the blitz. Kills it. And he's killed it for a long time. In 2021, number 2 in the NFL in passer rating against the blitz at 122.5. In 2022, last season, number 2 in the NFL in passer rating against the blitz at 104.9. And this year, the last 4 games, 113 passer rating against the blitz, number 4 in the NFL. Sean, what are we doing? You played Joe Burrow like he was Sam Howell. You blitzed him like crazy. 30.4% of passing plays, Sean McDermott blitzed. And what's maddening is as you watch the game and you see them continue to do it, and you see how ineffective it is and how easy it made things for Joe Burrow, the more frustrating it became. The Locked On Bills subtext community knows all about it. I just kept putting clip after clip with my palms in the air saying, what are we doing? Now, I know that it speaks to a bigger issue in that your pass rush, your organic pass rush, is not very good. It's not good. You are not winning up front, rushing the passer. So you have to, air quotes, you have to try to figure some other way to get pressure on the quarterback. But that's disappointing too, that you can't get regular pass rush, that you have to send 5 and 6 guys. I can't tell you how many 6-man pressures Sean McDermott brought in this game. And they worked a couple times. There was 2 times where it worked. Once the Bills were able to get a batted pass. The other, they got a hurried throw that was incomplete. Otherwise, Burrow was 10 of 14 for like 158 yards when you blitzed him and you just kept doing it. I know you're trying to get negative plays. I get it. I know that you're undermanned, especially in the back seven. But figure it out. Figure something else out. Like win a one-on-one battle. And that was frustrating to me as I'm showing these clips in the Locked On Bill subtext community. And I'm like, hey, you're sending 5 here, and the whole entire purpose is to create one-on-one battles, and nobody's getting off blocks. Again, it speaks to a bigger issue that your organic pass rush is not very good. But it should be. Right now, you're getting nothing out of Von Miller. Nothing. He is so easy to block for these offensive tackles. He is no challenge whatsoever. It's just not clicking with this pass rush right now. Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe how just the blitzing, it just never stopped. It never stopped. And it just wasn't working. And I know the Bills, like I said it yesterday on the podcast, like I thought the defense gave them a chance. Held them to 24 points. Like I get it. There's some good results here for the defense. But you can't live in this world. You can't live in this world. Von Miller, disappointing. Linval Joseph, I thought he stepped in and played pretty good football. I mean, off the couch, defending the run, getting after it as a pass rusher. I mean, he's not a great pass rusher, but he's competing. Made a couple of really nice plays against the run. I thought Rasul Douglas came in and played admirably, all things considered. I think he may have missed a cue on one particular blitz where he wound up leaving and kind of there was nobody to account for a motion player that wind up just kind of running a little flare route and being wide open. But I thought in coverage, he was really good. I think Tyrel Dodson played well in this game. I know that I think it was the first or the second series, the Bengals scored a touchdown, and there was 2 plays where Dodson was one that he gave up a completion in coverage where he just took a horrible angle and then missed the tackle, and then they ran the ball in and he filled the wrong hole. So that was like definitely a low light. But if you watch the rest of the game, Tyrel Dodson made a nice impact. He played well. And even Taron Johnson played good football. Fast trigger, closing, playing in the second level, fitting the run, winning in coverage a good bit. I thought Taron Johnson was another bright spot. But the big theme in watching this defensive tape was you're just blitzing like crazy. And I'll tell you what, the only thing worse than not being able to get home and get pressure with 4 rushers is committing more rushers and them still not getting home. The pressure stuff was just not effective. It was not. Defensive snap counts, 70 defensive snaps for the Bills. At defensive end, Leonard Floyd, 35. A.J. Epinesa, 31. Greg Rousseau, 30. Von Miller, 24. Shaq Lawson, 16. Kingsley Jonathan, 4. At defensive tackle, Ed Oliver, 45 of 70 snaps. Jordan Phillips, 40. Tim Settle, 35. Linval Joseph, 30. At linebacker, Tyrel Dodson, 67 of 70 snaps. Dorian Williams, 31. Terrell Bernard, 30 before he was concussed. At cornerback, Taron Johnson, all 70 snaps. Dane Jackson, 59. Rasul Douglas, 42. Christian Benford, 34. At safety, Jordan Poyer, 70. Micah Hyde, 57. Taylor Rapp, 23. What was that missed tackle on Drew Sample? It's a third-string tight end, and Taylor Rapp is diving at his ankles. Like, square up and make a physical tackle and make them earn the touchdown. You're just jumping at the guy's ankles when you have plenty of time to get yourself in a good position to make a tackle. Cam Lewis, 2 snaps. Studs and duds were tough for me this week. I do have a couple that I want to shout out. And again, studs and duds is whatever criteria I want it to be. Do I feel like they made a big enough impact, good or bad, to be a stud or a dud? I do have one stud, and it's Dalton Kincaid. And I know that he fumbled the ball, and that was a very costly play, but he's competing and trying to make a play. I mean, that dude put it all out there. He was running routes with intent, catching the football, competing after the catch. I mean, that dude was different out there, and I think he's going to be a star for this football team. I give him a stud. 10 catches on 11 targets. I know he had a blunder, but man, That dude showed a lot of receiving skill and made a big impact in this game. I thought about Tyrel Dodson as a stud. He's close for me. I'm not going to officially put him down as a stud because there was one drive where I thought 2 miscues from him led to them scoring, and I know that that's somewhat contradictory to what I just said about Dalton Kincaid. But again, we're talking about a player that's like in his 4th year versus a guy that's like in his 8th game in the league. And I thought about Taron Johnson as a stud as well. I'll put him down as a stud. Taron Johnson, stud. So Dalton Kincaid, Taron Johnson, stud. Duds, Dion Dawkins, Osiris Torrence, and Von Miller. And I feel bad for Von Miller to an extent. I mean, he's 34 or whatever years old, coming off of an ACL tear, but he's a net negative to this team. He's not making any impact whatsoever. He's easy to block. And he had a chance to make a critical stop on that last series and give the Bills offense a chance. And just got sucked in, didn't have the angle, and Bengals kneel it out and you lose a football game. So duds, Dion Dawkins, Osiris Torrence, and Von Miller. So there you have it. The all-22 review on the Bills versus the Bengals. Next up is going to be herd mentality, and then we will really get started with our preparations for the Denver Broncos. So plenty of content coming your way here on Locked On Bills. Don't miss anything. Make sure that you're subscribed. We'd love it if you took a second to rate, review, and share the podcast. Have a great rest of your day. Go Bills, and I look forward to catching up with you again tomorrow.